360, The Channel of Mutation. From the book Channels by Type by Uru Hu. The 360 is the channel of mutation. It is the root source of mutation, and it is about energy that initiates and fluctuates. Now, it does not mean that it's always initiating, but it is always fluctuating. The whole thing about the individual energy field is that it is a pulse, and that the whole mystery of mutation is that it only takes place between the pulses. This is one of those old mystical things, the space between the fingers, the space between the notes, and it is the space in the pulse where the mutation takes place. Always remember that nothing is static and everything is moving. And then you can understand what that space is in a pulse. The pulse moves in space and time and jumps. If you go out in a pulse and you're moving, by the time it comes back, you're in a different place. That's a jump that's taken place. That's the jump you see in the 51. That's the jump manifested in the sense that it finally comes out as an action of the ego to actually leap. The real miracle in the jump is that space in between. Anything can happen in that space. In that space, you either have enough momentum to get across and land, or you fall. It's one or the other. So when you're looking at the 360, you're looking at this pulse, but it's a pulse that's moving in time. It's moving in space. It's one of the things about individuals, out of their very energy, that they know and don't know alternatively. It's just as easy for them to say, I know, as it is to say, I don't know. What happens to them is that they are always obsessed with knowing. So every time they go out on the pulse, they're hoping when they come back that they have made the mutative leap, which is why they have to be existential, because if they don't pay attention, they will miss it. Relative states of existentialism. The whole thing about the drive and the energy field of the individual is this absolute need for being existential. Given your type and given the nature of your design, it's not always possible. There are relative states of existentialism. There's the existential manifester and the existential generator and the existential reflector and projector, because they can all be existential under certain conditions. So when you're dealing with the 360, the only condition for existential existence is to respond. The sacral expresses anything that is connected to it. What people don't necessarily grasp clearly about the sacral center is that it's not intelligent. It's not an awareness center. It's not smart. It doesn't speak its own words ever in the sense of responding in sound. It's a motor. It's a prime motor. It's our regenerative capacity. And yet at the same time, the specialness of the sacral, what makes it different from other motors, is that it acts as a diaphragm. It will express as a vibration anything that's connected to it. That's its gift. That's why the generator has a way of getting access to their response. If the sacral was mute, being a generator would be a horror. So the sacral center acts as a medium for expression. When I say to people, look, out of your sacral center you find your authority if you're a generator. Out of the sacral you find your authority. So imagine that you have somebody who is only a 360. When somebody says to them, would you like to go out tonight? And they go, uh-huh. What is saying, uh-huh, what is making that decision is that if it had a voice, it would say, yes, this can be mutative, or no, this is not mutative. Just as there is a gift in the third hexagram to be able to tell difference between sterile and fertile. What the 360 is actually doing is it expresses itself through the sacral, and then you can understand what is guiding you. You see, your mind will never understand that. How can it? It's not connected to all of that, and your mind is always rebelling against authority any place other than in the mind. And you have to see that if you are a 360, when you're going, you have to understand, your mind has to understand that what you are really saying is, there is no mutative capacity in my accepting this. Because human design is logical, you have to take the experiment. So if you're a 360 and somebody says, you want to go out? And you hear yourself go, then you could wait and see what the mutative quality is that comes out of that acceptance, so that you can learn to see that your sacral through that channel is guiding you. It's not the sacral that's guiding you. It's simply the sacral that's the voice of that. It's very important to grasp. And you see, charts are so much more complex. Now, this sacral is a very, very complex diaphragm. Look what it speaks. You want to go out? It answers and says, because it can be mutative. But that's not the only thing that will condition the answer. The 50-second gate in that example will condition the answer. The 50-second gate will say, is it worth stepping out of my passiveness and out of my waiting to enter into this? Is this something that I can really work with? And the 54 in this example says, will I be recognized? So when the sacral is going, this is mutative. It's saying this is mutative and somebody is going to recognize my value, the marrying maiden. But it says more than that. It says when I go, not only is it mutative and a potential for me to focus on and a potential for me to get attention to myself, but it's also my capacity to have power. And not only that, but if I go, it's mutative. I'm also saying not only is it mutative, but it's mutative and it is the right direction for me. And out of that right direction, I can initiate and be initiated and be able to find all of these roles, all of that out of the You see, more than ever, more than we've ever been able to measure the intelligence of the mind and how the mind could possibly guide us, which of course is impossible, mechanics allows us to see exactly how we're guided and what is the quality of that guidance and the nature of it. And the moment you're aware of what guides the sacral, that's the moment you begin to understand why it's an authority for you. Every time that sacral is saying yes, it's saying yes to that design. It's saying yes for its own self, for all of those things are part of that saying yes. Every gate, every aspect, every center in that definition has agreed yes. Then you get to see why I keep telling people how healthy that is. Because every part of you, the part that has to make the decision, is all in agreement, and you didn't have to sit at a board meeting, and you didn't have to sit and work out the negotiations, and you didn't have to sit in your mind and mess around for months and months. All you had to do is respect the mechanics of your nature and its inherent intelligence. That sacral is never going to say yes to something that's not mutative, never. That mind, that mind will get into any piece of nonsense possible. And you see, given the ignorance that human beings have of their nature, it's assumed that that mind is the authority in that being. It is assumed that the mind is there to guide them and that when they hear themselves go, they don't know how deep that is. They don't know how profound that is. They just think it's a sound. That was one of the most impressive things as him as an actor, Dustin Hoffman, the example chart. It's not the words that he said as much as the noises he made. He had all these little funny grunts and sounds that he makes in all the characters he plays. That's him. And if you said to him, what does the really mean? And what's the source of that? He doesn't know. He will tell you it's his mind, if anything, because people don't know and they don't respect it. That's a magnificent capacity. So the whole business about being a 360 in this life is to recognize that as a generator, as a mutative generator, that it is your responsibility, because the mutative generator is the source energy for our evolution, that you have to respect what it is to be a generator. Wait to respond. And in that response, know that when you're responding, that you're entering into something that will be mutative. Now, you're a generator. It doesn't mean it's going to be mutative instantaneously. It means you're going to have to spend your time getting stuck at the various levels that you have to go through as a generator. But it means that in the end, the mutation will be self-evident, and self-evident not only within yourself, but through the true role of a generator and an individual generator, which is through response to mutate others. The mutative example through response. Look carefully at the wiring of any sacral. It's so important never to forget that the real simple truth of human design is always in the picture. It's in the picture. And if you look at the way a sacral center is connected, You will understand its depth and you will understand what it expresses, and then you begin to see that it's not just about trusting a uh-huh or which seems like, what am I trusting in that? You can really see what that is expressing for you. You don't need all of the specialized communicative skills of the throat center. You don't. You have to see clearly the depth of profundity of what is guiding the sacral. And by the way, it's not about how many aspects are involved. It really isn't. You can just have one. Doesn't make a difference. You can just be the 360. The fact of the matter is, the best astrologer I have ever known, she's a 360, nothing else. An open sieve to everybody's vibration, and yet, at the same time, this incredible capacity to mutate them and to recognize what is mutative. So if the 360 is in your life, the only way you're going to fulfill yourself is by waiting for it to respond, to guide you. This is fertile ground for me. This is sterile ground for me. This is mutative for me. This is not mutative for me. Follow the wiring, and then you'll understand the depth. And for your clients, it's very important. They all know or can know the sound in themselves, but it's important for them to understand its depth, and you can guide them to that. You can say, look, this sound isn't just a reflex. It's deeply rooted and guided by what you are. Here's a human being that can truly be a source of direction, a mutative source of direction for all kinds of beings in its life, and that is only possible when it recognizes that expresses the profundity of all of that. And through the experiment of accepting, that is the capacity to be able to experience it in life and see it.